Thank you so much for doing this for us. We're super excited to hear from you. I know we've sent you some questions ahead of time, so you've got a little bit of a heads up on questions that this team has in particular about Shakeology. And I was thinking maybe just for the newer coaches that may be on this call, a quick 5-minute history of how you got here, how Shakeology got created, like the idea behind it, and then we can go into the questions.
Absolutely, for sure. Whenever you're ready.
We are ready. Go ahead and get started. They're going to be jumping on, but we're recording, so you can tell us all about.
Okay. All about everything. Okay, cool. So welcome everybody, and if everyone could go on mute, that would be very helpful. Hey, so Happy New Year. We're already halfway through the first month. So let's go back to 2006. I was traveling around the world looking for herbs, formulating things, realizing that the food and the supplement market was doing a lot of things not great, which is why and excuse my little branch that hit me as I was cutting a tree that went down. That's the scrape on my face, in case any of you are thinking I had a wild and crazy first part of my year. Yes, it was a tree that fell down and I had to chainsaw it. So gotta get that out of the way. So back in 2006, I was running around, I was putting formulas together, I was finding herbs and foods and botanicals, largely I was in India, I was in the Amazon, I was in Peru, South America, and I had every intention of putting some of these things out in the world when I basically came to a point where I was very close to releasing my own company, and I ran out of money, just being kind of new to the business side of it. And then serendipitously, I ran into Isabel. She had heard about me through another guy, and we met, and instantly it was this kinship that we had with life and nutrition and healthy living. And she said, my boyfriend at the time is putting together an idea for a shake, and we see that you're doing a lot of superfood stuff. So largely I had kind of pushed off some other bigger companies to work for them at that point. So it was really Isabel's kinship, and then Carl's desire to help people, and I believed him, that really got me. And then he said, and this is important, he said he committed to Isabel and myself that he would never go down in quality, ever. And he would always improve the formula. And he also said to me, don't worry about the cost, just do your best and let me worry about marketing it. So it's very important to understand, because at the time there was nothing like this in the market. So I just went out and started putting this thing together and formulating. And so the real reason behind Shakeology is this. Isabel and I, as I said, we're very connected in terms of what we believed the state of needs were. And that is, people are getting a lot of food, but they're getting poor quality food. So we have an abundance of food around every corner, but the quality of it has gone down and down and down. And that's been going on since the early 1900s. And this has been proven and tested, and the food quality is poor. They've known about it since the 1930s, Congress, governments, all of that stuff. They knew about it. So if we're not getting what we want from a micronutrient standpoint, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, all those things, guess what happens over time? Your body gets stressed, it gets behind, and opens you up to the susceptibility of body challenges. And that could manifest in all kinds of different chronic ways, okay? Without getting myself in legal problems, right? But you can put that together. So we said, listen, this is a hell of a responsibility. If we're going to try to hit millions of people, then what do they require? They require micronutrient-rich superfoods and herbs and botanicals that have been proven from around the world, sometimes 10, 20,000 years of use in traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. So we've gathered these botanicals so that they can do what they have been designed to do by nature and get them to you in a proven quality and proven tested way, so that when you have that beautiful bag that shows up, that we have put our own people in those countries of origin where they're testing everything. And this actually goes right into the first question as to what's the difference. The difference is that Beachbody puts millions of dollars into quality assurance. This is the unsexy side of business. This is not kind of showing you, hey, marketing, we're the best product. No, this is guys who are out in those countries auditing facilities, meeting with our suppliers, making sure they pass. If they don't pass, you'll never know about it. We won't use that person. So we have to go on to the next. Or they don't pass and we have to help them get up to speed. So this is something that very few companies do. We did this from the beginning, and we're continuously improving behind the scenes in a way that hopefully more and more you guys are starting to be aware of. The other side of it is research and development. So we're into some incredible ways of testing our compounds to make sure that it has the active micronutrients and constituents that are there to enable the body to respond to why these botanicals were used in the first place. So sometimes people say, well, it was a food, it was a botanical, and now it's a powder. How does that happen? Well, you have to know how to grow it. You have to know how to dry it. You have to know how to process it under right temperatures and things like this, so that you don't lose those constituents. So that we test those before, during, and after. And again, this is the money where our mouth is. These are the things that were set up before I even signed on, meaning that they said, this is the way we're going to do things. And this is the way we've now hired hundreds and hundreds of people in R&D and research and development, and people that travel around the world to monitor these things that are there. Those people are there. That huge team is there to back up that what's in that pretty bag is supposed to be there. And that is harder to just flip over and compare one product to another. It's very easy, believe me. And listen when I say this to you, it is very easy. If any one of you called me and said, hey, I want to throw together a product with protein, camu, moringa, chaga, whatever, I could point you in 10 different directions to 10 commodity brokers that could find that for you. They could find it as just any commodity, and they're salespeople that's going to send you all the correct paperwork that are the base standard of all of those things. But in truth, you don't really know what you're getting, which is why I got into this space to begin with. Why did I end up showing up? Why was I given a name like a Superfood Hunter or Indiana Jones, blah, blah, blah? I wasn't doing it to get a name. I was doing it because it was necessary. It was necessary to see these things, to meet the people, and to realize that if we do this correctly, we're helping individual farmers around the world, and we're also promoting high quality ingredients. So that bleeds me into this first question, which is, what is Shakeology and the difference from everything else out there, I would say that it doesn't really matter much to me if a product is comparing their ingredients to our ingredients. It really doesn't mean much to me, because I know if they don't have the resources, the right people, and the willingness to go to work and to show up on a mountaintop, to show up in a processing facility, then you're not getting the same thing. So that you want to shout from the rooftops. It may not be the sexiest thing, but we make sure that our products are safe. I'll give you an example. So coming across, as I'm in the American Botanical Council, I'm in all of these other organizations within the herbal worlds. And of course, something flies in the radar. And what happened as of like a month ago, reishi mushrooms, right? Which is in Shakeology. This main supplier, it's been contaminated. They're using false stuff, all of this stuff. And they're supplying like a massive amount of the industry. Well, for us, we already have our own supplier. We've already tested all of those things. We've already proactively done all of our work. So when these things happen, it's not a surprise to us. And it's certainly not a surprise to me, because people are adulterating ingredients all the time, which is why we've done our homework. And we're not in the sense that being a victim to people not doing things correctly. So anyway, that's all I'll say on that. But those are some of the main reasons. And again, the other reasons that we're different than other people is the alchemy, how these things are mixed together. We're doing advanced research right now into using botanicals and how they're mixed together and how they balance with each other. That makes basically what it means to you is the sum of Shakeology only gets better the more we do. So the sum is greater than all these individual parts, which is what people always like to do. They like to compare. Like if they like to compare and they don't even know that their ingredients are powerful and tested and people have done that, plus they don't even know how it interacts with all the other botanicals because they haven't done those tests, then those people are just copying and they're just trying to make their product sound as good as ours. But I haven't seen a product yet that holds up to what we do. Okay. So there you go. Those are some of the big reasons. And believe me, if you're in the conversation with anyone about a protein shake, that's like talking about a wheel with one spoke, right? So protein is one of the most over-asked questions on the planet as it comes to nutrition. Of course, we have protein in there. We have a variety of proteins from a variety of sources, which is fantastic because it's got a plethora of different amino acids that make up that protein. But what we have is these buckets of prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, this matrix of adaptogenic herbs, which I think the next question here is, can you break down some of the ingredients and what they do for us and how it works over time? So here's what I can say, because that's a week-long lecture, that one question. But the best way I can do, because it's like you can show people how to fish instead of giving them fish. That whole analogy that I won't go into the whole thing. So I want to teach you to fish right now. So what I want you to do, if you want to know some of the amazing ingredients and botanicals that are in here, look up probably, take an adaptogen, right? So take chaga mushroom, take reishi, take astragalus, take ashwagandha, take any one, maca, take any one of those, hell, moringa, take any one of those and spend 5 to 10 minutes doing research on any one of those, and you will start reading for yourselves the benefits that will essentially blow your mind, right? So if I start getting into all of those things, then it's just, you can't stop me. But these things are why, we are always improving the formula. So like, over 10 years ago when I started this formulation, chaga mushrooms, for example, wasn't even close to being a sustainable ingredient to be able to be in something as substantial as Shakeology. When I say substantial, we have hundreds of thousands of people drinking that every day. It's very important that the resource that we're getting it from is sustainable. Because why would you put an ingredient in if you're going to run out of it or if it's not any good, right? So it's taken years for us, and sometimes years for us, to add any of these ingredients in there. It's not just throwing these things. These things are agricultural. These things have to be grown, right? They have to be cultivated. They have to be processed correctly. All of this stuff is real botanicals. It's real crops. It's real people. That's a big deal. So when we go to expand and we go to find these exotic superfoods and botanicals, it takes a lot of work just on the operational side to make sure that these things are there. I mean, Moringa, for example, I've visited Moringa on 6-7 different countries because it's like drinking a vitamin pill. It's like one of the greatest. If you were left me on an island and I had one food or botanical that I could consume to survive, I would choose Moringa. Moringa has got, again, look it up. Then I can save time and not have to go down the list of all the benefits. But Moringa is just a vitamin and mineral powerhouse, as well as 36 antioxidants, chlorophyll, all of these aspects, plus the tree has all these other benefits. You can clean the water with the seeds and all of these things. So it's a very incredible plant. So once you start understanding, you don't have to be a nutritionist, but once you start understanding these botanicals that are in your shake, that are safe in your shake, and that have been tested for quality, once you start to grok that, and you don't have to go through every one of them, but spend 5 or 10 minutes digging into that. Another great one that I've visited several times in China, and that's Schizandra, right? Hitting the 5 senses, the 5 flavors. This is one of the greatest traditional Chinese medicine herbs on the planet, right? And these are the special botanicals that are in Shakeology, okay? So it's no joke. So when Isabel and I were taking on the responsibility of, listen, wow, if we have a platform to give these botanicals to people, well, what is that doing? It's supplying these nutrients that we're no longer getting from our normal way of creating 7 billion people on the planet. We cannot, and we have not, based on these systems, created a way where we're getting nutrient-dense food. We're getting a lot of food, but we've compromised it, okay? So we want to reintroduce botanical diversity. Okay, let's move on because it is big questions require big answers. All right, so let me see. Number 3. Hey, there's my dog. Guess what my dog's name is? Chaga. Trivia question. That's how much I love Chaga. It's a great dog name, by the way. Right, Chaga? Lay down. Lay down. All right. So how do we help customers who start having stomach issues after starting Shakeology? So this is such a big topic because it's not necessarily Shakeology related. So I don't know if you've realized or seen, food allergies and food sensitivities have skyrocketed, bloating, not feeling well after eating. Have you not seen or experienced yourself this kind of epidemic going on all across the country? And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I need to give you these things to consider. Now, one thing is, if you go to Food Democracy Now, you can read more about some of the infiltration of, since the 70s, pesticides, herbicides, specifically glyphosate, how it's disrupting our microbiome, and we've all been exposed to it since the 70s. The reason I say that is because we are now in this petri dish of experimentation, unfortunately, by certain organizations, and it's been causing serious effects in all of us. Eating food, bloating, and then food sensitivities, allergies, it's very real. The reason I say that is because when you've irritated your digestive system, when it's inflamed, the list of things that you will not be able to assimilate will only continue to grow. Okay? So when you consider, by the food that I'm eating, it has to be broken down with the right amount of hydrochloric acids in the stomach, which is lower and lower and lower in people because of certain imbalances. It has to have the right systemic and digestive enzymes in order to break and facilitate the food into the smaller parts, so that then when it gets to the small intestine, it can start being absorbed. And how it's absorbed is only one small cellular membrane that it has to penetrate through. If things aren't broken down in the proper way, then those big molecules are trying to poke through, and they can cause irritations. This happens all the time in undigested meat, dairy, fish, and eggs, right? Because if you don't have the right balance, your body just is way inefficient at breaking those things down, especially over time. So all of that being said, if you're eating bread that's not fermented long enough, which needs to have at least 3 days of fermentation, all of our bread is shifted into fast-acting yeast that doesn't allow the proper enzymatic activity and fermentation and the gluten to transform, therefore creating all kinds of problems. Not to mention, if it's not organic, then the wheat, corn, all of that stuff is typically a genetically modified organism, also having glyphosate as its activator. I say that because you need to be aware of it. I'm going to stop there because it's a huge topic. Why I'm bringing that up is because when people, there's many different aspects, when people consume something new that has prebiotics, probiotics, and fiber, it's now activating and seeding new bacteria, healthy bacteria. That can take some time, right? So when you're sending in prebiotics, you're sending in good food for the good bacteria. When you're sending in probiotics, you're sending in probiotics that have to fight for a position within the digestive system. And if you've been eating poorly, stressed out, or been exposed to over-the-counter drugs, then that microflora can be off, as well as pesticide, herbicide, all of these kind of exposures can throw that off. So when you take Shakeology, there may be a period of time where the prebiotics, probiotics are starting to change, and that may happen. Now, I also am not a doctor, so I can't tell you. If you're having severe reactions, then you need to consult a functional medicine doctor, or a doctor that knows what the hell they're talking about with nutrition, or else you will just be given another pill that will never solve any of the issues. It will just push off the symptomologies, okay? So it's a very real thing. When your digestive system is inflamed, Shakeology could be added to the list of things that you just can't assimilate because you're injured. Your digestive system is injured. So you need to not continue to injure it and back off and get that functioning properly. And again, that's a massive topic, but you want to start eating more simply and not expose yourself to things that you're reacting to. So that's the bigger issue that's going on with food sensitivities. This question didn't even exist for us 6 years ago. right? 7 years ago, 8 years ago, didn't exist because people weren't having these reactions because their digestive systems haven't been just triggered, right? And the next wave of that is you click into autoimmune issues, okay? So big, 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 big topic. What else? Let's see. Move to, what about allergies? I kind of, we addressed that. People have always, next question, people always want to know the details about the probiotic count. So this is a very important thing when formulating, because you have to honor where people are at. Giving people 10, 20 billion microorganisms isn't necessarily the best way to go. Plus, a lot of those microorganisms, the probiotics, haven't been clinically proven to go and make it through the digestive system and to seed themselves from into the small intestine and make it into the supporting nature in your body. So we're about 200 million per serving, okay? But the strain we use is Bacillus glucans, which is a lactobacillus form that has been proven to make it through all the way to the small intestine and to be effective and not be annihilated by a digestive system before it makes it to. So it's like a grandfather spore that's very resilient, getting to where it needs to go. Most of the bacteria just gets destroyed. So very important, because that strain has a very strong historic use. And, that type of strain is kind of the gold standard for all starter cultures, even with kimchi and other kind of, there's kefirs and sauerkrauts and all of that stuff. Very powerful. We're very proud of that probiotic. And then the other real reason is because, like I said before, the stability of that probiotic is not, probiotics are not comparable unless they're substantiated. And this one's substantiated and resistant to the chemical strain of going through, and certainly the chemical strain of going through the body and getting to the right place. And then, the major reason is the clinical proving of those probiotics. So, okay. Next question. How are we doing at time? Good. What's your top question? Let's finish up with.
Let's see. I would say if you could kind of combo the more flavors, will you add more flavors, more superfoods, and or the concept of the sugar content or count?
Yeah. So let's go into the sugar. Yeah. So first off, the sugar count isn't high, because when you look at it from everything else, you'll have a handful of rice and it's higher in sugar than that. But here where you have to look at sugar, and I get from a isolated white sugar point of view, high fructose corn syrup, absolutely don't make that a part of your diet. But again, keep in mind that the contributing sugar that you see is so much of it is coming from all of the different whole plants that are powdered in the formula. There's very little organic cane sugar, but it's also got all the vitamins and minerals adapted to it or with it. And then we still have the contributing sweetening aspect of the Lohangao, the stevia, things like that. So when you look at these formulas, you really want to look at the glycemic index. And our glycemic index, I think, throughout all the formulas are between like 25 and 30, and 100 being obviously a spike and reactive to the insulin. So we're in a low glycemic range. That's where you want to look at it, because it's in the whole formula. With the fibers, with the proteins, with the type of sugars that are there, it's a very slow acting sugar. So that's what you want to look at. So the idea that 7 grams of contributing sugar from a massive ingredient standpoint is high is not correct. But I think we're so carb phobic right now, which is insane to me, because our brain, as much as some weird ketogenic world and paleo world is making up a bunch of weird science about it, it's very clear. I've talked to the top neuroscientists on the planet, Alzheimer's, dementia scientists, and they're like, we're not confused. Your brain needs glucose. Your cells are made for glucose. So there's that certain amount of it. If you're concerned at all you do is drink Shakeology after a workout, right? And your body sucks it up for all the glucose that you need anyway. That's actually just because I like it after a workout. That's usually when I consume it. But to worry about 7 grams of slow burning sugar in Shakeology is just uneducated, and that's your job, to become more aware of that, so that you disprove some of this stuff, and you definitely help to keep people away from artificial colors and sweeteners and all this other gnarly stuff that they have. Quickly then, so other superfoods, other flavors, we have nothing on the docket yet. We always have ideas of flavors. We'll definitely take, you can message me and put up your top flavors. The biggest challenge with flavors, which was probably my hardest part of formulating, is because I just wanted to kind of leave it close to what it naturally tasted like. And of course, that doesn't sell very well. So to flavor something is very, very complicated when you're not using chemicals. So to make like a cookies and cream would be a very, very difficult thing. But I could go to a flavor company and they could just manipulate any chemical, and then we could have the flavor and everyone seems to be happy, but we're not happy. So we're definitely open to playing with new flavors and things like that. Superfoods, we're doing a lot of optimization right now. I know that's not the sexy answer, but we're optimizing a lot of the superfoods as they interact and blend and interact with each other, which is awesome. I can't get into all of the dynamics there, but I have a list of a bunch that I'm looking into. And as things advance, then, for example, there's a superfood in the Amazon where it takes a special harness to climb. And a good friend of mine from UCLA developed that harness. So now can be harvested, and no one's ever seen this palm fruit before. And so we're looking into it, and it sometimes takes years to see if it's even viable to fit into a formula like Shakeology, because sometimes it's better off left in its natural state. So that's kind of it so far, but we have some of the greatest botanicals in the world in that formula. I kid you not. Like, we have some of the greats. I mean, literally I would say the top adaptogens, Schizandra, chaga, the top mushrooms, chaga, reishi, the top botanical, Moringa. These things are like, again, do your homework, spend 5 or 10 minutes, get excited about this stuff and look at some of this research. It's incredible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to share with us. We so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep you any longer, so hope you guys
all good.
great night. Thank you guys.
Happy New Year. Go kick some butt.
We will.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy New Year. Good night.
Bye.